Hello everyone, am I audible? Just let me know if you can hear me and we can proceed with the session. Yes, great. Thanks a lot everyone for joining in. I know it's late and it's probably time for dinner, but yeah, it's also the time for learning, right? So today we'll be talking about creating static websites within minutes, right? So the reason why we got Arithro to speak here, he will tell you the reason otherwise. But we also have a reason which is like something which we thought that Arithro is not someone who is, a web developer every day. So initially, this topic was something which was suggested by the members of the club in our DSC NSEC clubhouse, and you can actually join the clubhouse. It's a pretty fun place by following this link. So in the clubhouse, it came as a topic suggestion that we should be talking about creating static websites quickly. And I wanted to take that session myself, but I did not do that because I am pretty much involved in web development and stuff. So I would not be the right person to take this session because Arithro not being a web developer, makes it more important because we want this session to be for everyone, right? We want everyone to connect to this session and to be able to quickly make their websites, whether or not they are into web development every day or not, right? So that is why we got Arithro to take this session, and we are very thankful to him for accepting this invite to be a speaker for this topic. I'll be inviting Arithro to the session now, and yep, there he is. Hi, Arithro.
Could you interact in the chat, please? It would be great.
So, Arithro, the session is yours now.
All right. Thank you so much, Anubhav. Hey guys, I am Auritra Goshtipati. I'm an undergrad at NSEC, and I think with this circumstance, I am going to be an undergrad for a long, long time, suppose. So, as Anubhav said, the motivation of today's presentation is that I'm not a web developer, right? And I needed a portfolio and a blogging site up and running, and this is where I am. Uh, Connecting the presentation is a must. So I would like you all to get involved in the YouTube live chat so that I can go back and forth with the chats and answer some pretty fun questions. So Anubhav, could you please keep my slides in focus now? So creating a static website within minutes, right? That is the presentation today. That is the slide that we are going to go through. What I will not cover is, as Anubhav told quite well, that I am not a web developer, and I have very little what do you call it, very little skills in web development. So I'm not going to cover user interface, backend, or web development at all, right? Why am I here? I have a blog on this topic. I'll link to the blog at the description below. And that is how Anubhav came to know that I was working on a static website and things happened. To-dos of today would be static site generators, like to know what static site generators are. Jekyll is one of the static site generators that I am going to talk about today. There are millions of static site generators, but I'll be talking about Jekyll because it's a very easy to learn, and the learning curve is quite static, as we would see. Creating a default website, I'll be also coding, or rather making our default website and serving it on the local system, as it's very basic to have a default website and serve it to see how the website looks and performs. Important files and folders in the static website that we have created. So it's very important to understand how a Jekyll project works, and what are the important nooks and corners of the whole project. And this will also make you all understand how to read or go through or skim through a Jekyll project. And finally, I'll be talking about Github-Pages, as GitHub is a platform for developers, but anybody can have an account, and GitHub provides one host, like it provides free hosting and individual sites to individual accounts, right? So we'll take that into consideration as well. So what is a static site? Static website is where contents are static. So what do we mean by static contents? So wherever we go for static for websites, we are being served the site from through a server, right? So what happens with static sites is the server code or the HTML code that is being served is static in the server. It does not change in the server itself. And on the contrary, with dynamic websites, what happens is the contents are not static in the server itself. It changes in the server, and the server serves different source code to us, like source code as in the HTML code is being served, which is different, right? Static site generators, as the slide tells, each generator takes a repository with plain text files. Here, plain text files is very important. Runs one or more compilation phases and spits out a folder with a static website that can be hosted anywhere. This may sound gibberish now, but once we go through the coding phase and when I tell you how things are working, it'll make sense. The dynamics behind the static site generators is what we'll try to do is we'll blog with something called as Markdown. All right. The Markdown will be then compiled with the compilation engine. That is what Jekyll provides us, and the compilation helps in giving us HTML outputs, right? So we are not per se coding whatever or coding in HTML whatever we are seeing on the blog page or portfolio page or the static website. We're actually writing things in the Markdown and leaving all the stuffs, all the compilation phases to Jekyll to serve. Why Jekyll is a very important thing for me? I was quite overwhelmed when I searched for static site generators in the internet, and I was overwhelmed with the lots and lots, like the quantity of the things that are already present. I chose Jekyll because it has quite a good community, and it was very easy for me to grasp, right? So that is how it's going to be. I'll be showing how to work with Jekyll. So I did not want to make this a walkthrough session. So I have linked the installation procedure for Jekyll right here in my slides. It's fine if you don't have Jekyll right now. What you can do is you sit down with a notebook, like a proper notebook with a pen and paper, and write down stuffs, write down things that you find important, and you can question me. And after you install Jekyll, after this video session, of course, you can see how the video flows, and you can see what I'm going to do, right? So this is the first thing after your installation has been done. Jekyll new my blog. So what this command Jekyll new my blog does is it creates a folder named my blog, which will have all the required files for your static website. So let's see here. I have done this for you guys. This is VS Code. This is an editor that I prefer while I code. So this is my blog, right? And these are the files that are already created by the Jekyll. It's a template that Jekyll already provides for you. It's just this statement, and this is the output that you get on the screen, right? Now going to the presentation and seeing what things are. We have a posts folder We have a 404.html, about.markdown, config.yaml, gemfile.log, and index.markdown, right? This is a handful. But what I'm really about to say is this is not very overwhelming, because this is nothing, to be honest. When I walk you through the things that are there, it's going to be very easy. So once I go to my IDE, I have all these things here. Index.markdown is the place where you, if you're familiar with HTML, this is the first thing that comes to your mind when we are talking about websites, index.html and index.markdown, right? With index.html, you double click on the HTML file, and this is the home page of your website. Right now, it has this weird line of text. This is called the front matter. I'll cover this front matter and whatnot in my later slides, but be with me as I do something down my terminal. And this is what Jekyll does for us. And what we'll do is we'll actually see what Jekyll has installed for us right off the template. Like, this is the minima theme or minima template that we have, and this is what Jekyll does. And we'll build it and we'll see how it looks in our local host. So we are running on our local host 4000. It's already open. So voila, this is our website. This is the default website that we have. And what you can see here is, this is a template, right? So these don't make sense to you. Your awesome title, posts, this is a default post that we have, your awesome title again, and some description, and Twitter handles are not correctly in place, your email ID is not in place. So what I'm trying to say is, with only one command as to building the blog site or the portfolio site or a static website, you had a brilliant little statement that has already made a boilerplate code which you can serve right off the bat. And that's cool for me. Now, what you've got to do, or what we have got to do in this session, is we've got to understand what these components are, and how do we work with the components, and how do we change slight things which will make this website a little more understandable, right? We served this bundle exec Jekyll serve is the first command that you use while you're serving your website. And now it's time for us to talk about certain things that we have in our project, right? Post, site, config.yaml, and gem file. These are the most important things that we have in our project folder right now. Posts is the folder where you are going to blog, and you're going to blog with a markup language called Markdown. So it's a little ironical, but that's okay. The folder named site, this is what happens after the compilation. So be with me. Firstly, you write some markdown code, some plain text files, and you leave Jekyll to do with the compilations. The Jekyll engine compiles the code into raw HTML and then puts it into the site folder. Okay, so we are not going to, even for once, we are not going to change or look into this folder. Whatever we are going to do is excluding this folder. All right. Index.markdown has been talked about. Config.yaml is a configuration file. All right. So it's a little overwhelming to go about the configuration page all at once, but this is the configuration file, and we have variables. It's like a key value pair variable. So we have a key named title, and we have the value named your awesome title. We have a key named email. We have a key named description. So people who are coming from a non-tech background, keys have to be unique, right? So you cannot have 2 or 3 titles all at once in your config.yaml. But what you can have is the value which can not be unique. Like if you can use your awesome title in your email, and that would be perfectly fine, but that does not make sense. So that is the simple thing about key value pairs. So we have a lot of key value pairs which helps to get or access the variable. Like uh, how many of you have noticed this, that your awesome title is what is written in our title? So what happens if I change this? Let's say, and I serve it again. Notice how I don't use the bundle serve command again. I'm using the Jekyll serve instead. So when I served it again, I refreshed it. So you can see that my name has come up. So this is how the config file matters. Okay. So we have all the variables, all the key value pairs per se, and they are being taken or accessed in some part of our code that we don't have to explicitly say or explicitly code, right? So we can change the title, we can change our email, we can change the description, we can change the base URL, and blah blah blah. You get the hang of it, right? Now going to gem file. What do we mean by gem file? So Jekyll is based on top of a programming language called Ruby. Okay. So as tech people would know, something called libraries or plugins. Gems are the plugins that Jekyll uses. So we have a lot of gems here, which is, one is the Jekyll itself, one is Minima, one is a plugin feedback, Jekyll feed, and much more. So what happens is Jekyll takes these gems, executes it or updates it or installs it, whatever it does, and then it uses a pre-compiled code and helps us do our bit of the on the website. So what we'll be doing in the gem file is only when we are going to work with any plugins that we have. Okay, so after this gem file and the config.yaml, I think I've mostly covered what things are here and the most important parts. Going back to the slides, post is a place where you write your blogs. That is what I have shown. All right. Front matter is a little tricky, not tricky per se. Front matter is code of YAML or YMLs, which are between three dashed lines, right? You can set predefined variables or even custom ones on your own. So let's go into the code once again and see what index markdown has for us. It has this front matter, which has a key value pair again. So it says that it has a key named layout and it has a value called home. So what does it explicitly say? It says that it is using the layout of home. So what does it mean, and how do we change the layouts of the themes? I'll be going out. I'll be teaching that, or I'll be saying that in my further slides. Layout is where you can create your own layouts, right? To be very minimal about the things, Jekyll does not provide with any folders named layouts. So what we have got to do if we want to change the layout is I've got to create a layout folder, and we have got to create a file named home.html. All right, why did I create a file named home.html explicitly? Because I know that my index.markdown, or the index of the home page, is taking a layout of home. So this creates a pattern in your mind, right? Whatever we have in my layout, we can overwrite that layout with the same name in terms of an HTML file. So let's say I have a heading which says DSC and SEC, right? And so you do get the hang of it, right? With the help of a simple HTML file with the same name as that of the layout, I can override the whole thing. So that is how you create layouts, and that is how you override the minima theme or any themes that you have explicitly, right? Going back to the presentation, Github-Pages is let's talk about GitHub a little bit, and then we'll move on to Github-Pages. So GitHub is uh, developers heaven. It lets you host your code base, and it also lets you get one site on your name .github.io, and this is really useful, right? You don't This is free hosting, and free is all we need. So I'll be going through a few steps as to how to manage GitHub Pages and how to quickly get into this hosting thing. So what one can do is one can go into GitHub, create a site, or create an account rather, create an account, and then log into your account and create a repository. So I'll not be explicitly saying what and how one can go into and like create an account in GitHub, how can one create a repository, but it's comparatively easy, and it's really easy. You can Google it out, and while you're creating a repository, remember to use this as your repository name. So it is GitHub username, your username.github.io. So once your repository is named with this extension as .github.io, what happens is your GitHub understands that you're trying to host it, and it takes your code and hosts it. And what happens with Jekyll and GitHub Pages is, once you have uploaded all your Jekyll website code into your GitHub Pages or GitHub repository, it hosts it without even asking you what to host. It hosts it with the knowledge as to what Jekyll provides it. So the site folder that we have talked about, let's go into that. The site folder that we have talked about, this is what is being hosted by GitHub Pages. So now that I have been I know that I've rushed a lot, and it's a 40 minutes session, but I tried to cover as much as I could, because it's very easy as to how to get Jekyll installed, how to create a repository in GitHub, and what GitHub Pages does and all that stuff. And it's literally thoroughly provided in my slides. I did not want to make this a very boring session. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to code a little bit, so that you get the hang of it as to what I'm actually trying to say while I code. And please ask questions if you don't understand anything that I'm not doing, that I'm doing and that I'm not doing. I'm open for suggestions. So let's get started with the index markdown, something called the home, right? What we can do in Jekyll is we can have something called content. What does content mean? Let's say I have an H2 that says the world, all right? And what happened here is I tried to show how the structure of the code works. So what happened is index.markdown is the first thing that you are able to see. This is index.markdown, right? Index.markdown is trying to access a layout. Which is named as home, and we have overwritten home with our own layout style. which is home.html. All right. So with home.html, what we are able to do is we are able to take all the things that Jekyll has already written for us and overwrite it. What did content do? It wrapped all the content that index.markdown had for us. So we, in an analogy, home.html is the first thing that is there in our project. Then comes index.markdown. So we can talk about talk it in the inheritance point of view, where this is the parent and this is the child, and the content is the child's content. So we are wrapping everything inside what is called as content, right? Now let's change something and see. Hello world. It's me. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I'll be able to see that, right? And this is cool. And another analogy that I found very useful is, think about this as a jigsaw puzzle. It's a piece that can fit anywhere. So let's have something here, right? And something here too. And you get to see where the puzzle piece exactly fits inside my website. Am I making things a little clearer as to what is happening and what is not? Please mention in the chats. If it's not, I'm happy to speak about it again. In the meantime, what I'm absolutely going to make you understand is how you can take care of something called the variables in a YML file, right? In the config.yml, how do you access these variables? These are variables too. So what you saw in the index.markdown is something called front matter, which had key and values too. In config.yml, we have keys and values too, right? How do we access this? We can access this with something like this, site.title. And there I could access my title, which was written in none other than my config.yml. So what I can do with a lot of variables here is, I'm going to describe. I'm going to take a few minutes here as to how we can really go about doing things. So an anchor tag it creates a hyperlink. So I'm creating an anchor tag which says, say, Twitter, and I'm going to write and I can explicitly tell my Twitter handle here, but that's not fun, right? What I can do is I can do something like site dot twt. All right, go to config, change the key name to twt, and specify my value here, so that I don't need to explicitly say what my Twitter handle looks like, but I'll be eventually getting it from my config file. Right? Okay, one little thing that I would like to add is, when you one thing that you have seen is I have served my page, and the little changes that I'm making in my HTML or Markdown file, I'm being able to see them right off the bat, and I don't need to serve the website again and again, right? But what happens when you change your config.yml? You got to serve it again. So once I have done that, I'll head over to my, and there I have my Twitter anchor tag, and there I have my there it links me to my Twitter page, right? So that is how you can use config files. So let's run down to where we started and where we are now. We started from knowing what static site generators are, or what static sites are. Then we went on to understand what static site generators are. Then we took on to the world of Jekyll, and we created a website in actually 1 or 2 minutes. And we did not even have to like see what the components are, how the HTML is made. We have actually jumped right into our markdown files, and we are tweaking it, and we are seeing the website right off the bat. So that's really cool, and that is why my slide states that we are going to create a website within few minutes. That being said, I would like to add some little pointers here. What happens when I click the about.markdown? The about.markdown is a relatively complex page than index.markdown, as you can see here. About.markdown has a layout called page. Remember how we had layout of home in our index.markdown page? We have a layout called page. So this is some other layout that it's trying to pull off from the theme. So what happens if I go to my layouts folder that I created and create a page.html file? And remember, and let me just delete my home.html for a second. Delete this. All right, and go to page.html and do the same thing that we did. All right. Remember, we deleted the home.html, so it's again going back to the normal schema that we had. And with this, I made my point more clearer as to if you want to override something that Jekyll has already provided for us, we surely have to come up with our own home.html or a page.html, and you'll be able to see what happens when I click about. And I have the same thing that I wrote in about.html, right? So this is how things are. You can override things, you can tweak stuffs, you can do a lot of things with this. Now you would ask as to, if I delete page.html, like let's delete this, let's delete the whole layouts.folder itself. Deleted the whole layouts.html layouts folder, and let's refresh it. This is the about page. I can go back to my index page, and it looks superb. But somebody can ask, where is this themes and these layouts taken from, when I am not exactly explicitly saying to take, right? So what I did is I have already opened this. This is the Jekyll/Minima template. This is the code base for what you see here. It has explicitly mentioned the layouts folder. This is what we were making, right? We were making the home.html, we were making the page.html, and these are the other HTML or the layout variables that we can use. So what I have done with prior to streaming is I have cloned this Minima site just for you to take a sneak peek into the Minima code base. All right. So let's get into Minima. Let's get into fire up code. I just remembered I have two VS Codes open, and my laptop is going to burn. So let's close this. So here we are. With the Minima theme that Jekyll has provided us. It has these explicit layouts it has this explicit includes. So I'll be quickly going to I'll be quickly going to tell you what this index.markdown or index.md looked like for in our site and looks like here, and things are going to be very simple right now. So with our previous venture, what we had is an index.markdown which had layout and home. Exactly the same that we had is present right in front of us in our screen. All right. When we have this, we know for sure that it's taking home.html out from somewhere, right? And we know where it is. It's in the layouts folder. So let's open the home.html. This is the total code that Jekyll has, which it serves to us. This is the total thing. Now see, something funny happens here. We have a front matter that also provides us with a layout called default. So talking hierarchically, index is the root, index is the child, home is the exact parent of index, right? Now let's go into default and see what it has in store for us. So default is a template or is a layout or is a code that is being called by home itself. So as per the structure, default is the main code. This is being extracted by home. Home is being extracted by index in the order that I have provided. Now with default.html, there are these funny little squiggly braces, and inside it we have include. With include, we know for sure that it's something in the includes directory. Include has something called head.html. So we'll go to head.html if that is there, head.html. And this again includes something. So that analogy of me telling you guys as to think about the whole Jekyll project as Lego pieces or jigsaw puzzles and figure things out as to which part goes where is going to make a hell lot of difference when you're coding stuff, right? So with default, we have include head, we have include header, we have include footer. Once you have encountered include, you directly can go to the includes folder, you go to head, you go to header, and you go to footer, right? And this makes it very concise and very precise too. This is exactly what it means if you did not have this line of code and you had all of this line of code exactly here. So you're placing this puzzle, header.html or head.html rather, in here. And that is the analogy that I can provide to you, right? So let's close my code. Let's close my terminal. A little something that I wanted to add to it. My website is made with Jekyll. People are most welcome to fork it, to send PRs, to clone this existing site, and this is how my site looks like. Nothing much, but it's hard work. And I have my includes folder right here, layouts, posts, and whatnot. With the heads up that I have provided to you right now, what is going to happen is you will be able to skim through my project quite well, and you're going to also be very familiar with what is happening and what is not, right? Another thing that I'm also willing to share with you is this folder. This is TFUG Col, or TensorFlow User Group Kolkata's blog site or portfolio site, and it's like so good and so nicely done. You'll be able to skim through this project as well, and do go into this URL as well. They have some real good stuffs there if you are a machine learning enthusiast and whatnot. And in the end, I would also like to add some little things. Linking the repo to your local folder is something that I wanted you all to understand that I'm not going to cover in this session. Maybe the next time if Anubhav gives me scope, I'll be happy to share how and what Git and GitHub is. But with your with what happens when you have this repository made and your local folder or the website that you created right now is you can link your local repository, local folder per se, and you can link it to the repository that Github-Pages already has for you, and you can go through blogs and whatnot to understand how GitHub works. And this is one little thing that I wanted to mention and I forgot. When you set out to like serve or host your website and it's perfectly built onto GitHub-Pages, one thing that you have got to make sure is the gem file. You have got to make a gem or include a gem called Github-Pages. If you don't have this gem named Github-Pages, it's not going to tell GitHub or per se, it's not going to host it as Jekyll does. So it's just going to be a code base and it's not going to be published anywhere. So keep this in mind. This is a little nuance that you have got to keep in mind, and you're good to go. Jekyll sites, as I have mentioned, the TFUG call and my site have been built with Jekyll, and you can do things there. Now it's time for questions, and I have gracefully did not answer a lot of them. I'll be answering now. Okay, so why was Dr. Jekyll banned from South Africa? Because he was apartheid. That's correct, and that's nice.
Danny.
Any
So
questions?
please put them in the chat and we will take them one by one.
Either I have made a lot of sense or I have made no sense at all. I don't even have a question here. Please feel free to ask any sort of questions. I'll be gracefully not answering them if I do not know them, and I'll come back to you personally or via any medium if I get to know what the answer might just be, and I'll also be answering them if I know it right now. So yeah, that's there. How can I add Jekyll-Pages in my existing website? So what happens with existing websites is you don't need to add Jekyll. You can port your website to this Jekyll engine that we have, and you can then host it anywhere you like. It has quite like any hosting site works, but Github-Pages is free, and that is why I've promoted it all along. And one little thing that you can also do is you can have websites for each project, right? So you have individual sites, and that is one, and you have unlimited project sites. So what you can do is with any project that you have on GitHub, you can make a branch called gh-pages, and with that delete the default branch, and Github-Pages takes into notice that you have created a branch and it hosts that page. So I think it makes sense. Girish Garg, here says that can I get templates other than Minima? Yeah, you can, and there are a lot of templates out there. for some at the top of my mind, I can name one, that is Galada, I guess. You can go to, let me, you can go here and see the showcases. These are some terrific sites that you can like use as templates, and it's going to be superb. Right. Alternatives to Jekyll, as Faiz said, it's Hexo is one of the alternatives, and I guess I know one that is made with. So this man uh, has has a page that is made with Hexo, as I suppose. He told me that it's Hexo, and there you go. You can follow his GitHub account, and you can see what he has done. That's what you can do. Keep the questions coming. This is the site of TFG call. This is made with Jekyll, and I think this is just superb. And the blogs are too good. And today was their uh, tweets on TF winner announcement. They are cool. They are just cool. Just any questions? You can also reiterate your questions if I did not make sense. I'll be helping you out there.
Okay, I'm going to add a small thing here. Uh, so if you click on the three dots on the top right of this page of TFUC Kolkata, you can actually go to GitHub and check out the theme and the repo. So you can see there it's forked from a certain template called
Yep.
Jekyll MDL, and you can at any point of time, just pick it up and change the theme, change everything. You actually have a separate tool available for editing the theme of this website, so it's like pretty quick to get started with. Yeah. So we have another question. This is the last question we are going to take. So
Okay. And I would also like to suggest some little things, as one that Ayush Thakur has given us. Git book, right? Git book. Do check this out. And fast pages is a hell of a thing that Fast AI has come up with. You can quickly go into Fast Pages, and it's made with Jekyll. Uh, the best thing about this is you can have your IPYNB files, that is interactive Python notebooks, Markdown files, and docs quickly hosted with GitHub pages. So do check this out. I'll be linking the references in my slides, and I'm going to make my slides public in my Twitter account. So do give me a follow if you like. And the slides will be also listed down in the description. If you like to, you can go through the slides as well.
okay, so thanks a lot, Aditya, for today's session.
Thank you.
And we have a small announcement to make. So let me quickly share my screen. Yeah, so the first thing that I need to make sure goes through is that thanks a lot for conducting this session. We are very grateful. And yeah, uh, we have another announcement to make. Before that, we can probably take a question. Is Jekyll a CMS? So, TBH, Jekyll is not exactly a CMS. Jekyll is a static site generator. So you can probably call it a CMS, but I think a static site generator is a better definition for Jekyll.
Yeah. So one
Yeah.
little thing that I would
So
like
the
to
other
add.
thing which I wanted to let you guys know is that we so
I think Anubhav is lagging
so
somewhere.
we recently upgraded our website. Could be. Yep. We have updated everything out here, and you can also find the details of all our events which are coming up, details of our team members, details of our speakers, and every other detail that you might be interested in from our side. So yeah, you can even see Arito there. So guys, make sure you go through this website and keep visiting it regularly for getting updates from us. And that's all from today. That's all from us for today. Thanks a lot for yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Arito.
Thank you.